Hey, this is Patrick Myers from Killer Queen, and I've been having a great time listening to the Tippy Jo Show. It's fabulous, and I hope you're having a great time too.
We're joined today by Patrick Myers, the powerhouse frontman of Killer Queen, the world's longest running and most celebrated Queen tribute band. They'll be lighting up the Sovereign in St. Louis this Monday, October 13th. So be sure to grab your tickets for that as Patrick struts his stuff as Freddie Mercury. How are you today, Patrick?
Really good. Good to see you.
Fantastic. You look so much like Freddie Mercury already.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Very excited for Monday's upcoming show. Excited to hear everything that you have to bring as the Queen tribute brand. But let's start way back when to June 1993 when you did your very first show at London University. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we were kids. We formed the band in reaction to getting the news that Freddie had died. We were in shock, so we weren't thinking of forming a band straight away or anything like that. We were just playing the songs to each other in our dorm rooms. You know, we were in the halls of residence, and we teach each other the songs. And there was a battered old piano in the laundry room. So while we were waiting for our pants to dry and sort of do their rotations, we were sort of teaching each other Queen songs and saying this is how it went. And I was singing up and down the corridors, keeping everyone awake at night, doing my Freddie Mercury impression, which I'd always done right the way through. Well, they didn't know, but I developed a reputation. Let's put it that way, around my colleagues. Anyway, so and we thought, well, okay, well, and I discovered if I could sort of bring my brow down, and I was playing with my mum's mascara one Christmas, well, that Christmas. To try and meet my friends and impress them that I could grow a beard and things. And I realised that I had a similar sort of beard that Freddie had in his later years. So I pulled a Freddie face in the mirror, like you do, like every kid does, like an Elvis face or a Paul McCartney face or whatever, And I thought, oh, okay, I can look like Freddie. That's weird. Okay. And I also do this impression of Freddie. And we're learning the songs, and it sort of percolated through over a period of weeks that I started saying, yeah, I'm going to form a band. We're going to do Queen songs. It's going to be amazing. And of course, I didn't form a band. I just kept on talking about it with increasing enthusiasm. And eventually, everyone got so fed up with me, they said, Patrick, and I kept on doing this impression. Look, I can be like Freddie Mercury. Look. And eventually, I literally got told, look, either form this band and do this thing, or never do that impression of Freddie Mercury again, because you've just done it so much. So I thought, oh, you're right. I do actually have to do it, don't I? I can't just keep talking about it with increasing enthusiasm. I do actually have to assemble people around me. And I said, well, who's interested? Who wants to do this? And so they sort of came forward and said, yeah, I'll do it. And, and we put on one show. We got handed this headline show for all of London as our first ever show, because of some catastrophic mess up that the entertainment officer who was running all the big London show had forgot to renew his entertainment license, so couldn't put on so whoever was around, Nirvana or whatever. They couldn't put one on because they didn't have the license. The only thing they could put on was a student band. But no one's going to pay lots of money to go to a big student ball and pay and see a student band as the main attraction, and bands were the big draw. And someone said, "Oh, I know this guy. He's been talking endlessly about this Queen tribute band. Except it wasn't even called a tribute; it was his Queen band. And he's got the costumes. He's put it all together, and he's got these musicians, and it's just nothing like you've heard before. You've got to put them on." So he came to see us in rehearsal. He took me out to lunch and said, "Look, I want to do this with you. Will you headline the whole ball?" And I said immediately, "No." No, that's terrifying.
That's not what I was expecting.
No, I said, no, we're not ready yet.
Yes.
It needs to be perfect, and it's Queen. You've got to get,
right.
Somebody hit me like a truck, It was like, oh my God, what do you mean? We're going to have to perform? Can't we just be a tribute band in my head? No, you actually have to do shows. And I went, oh, okay, I suppose you're right. I went back to him a couple of days later and said, thank you very much for that lovely fish dinner. It was delicious. No one's ever bought me dinner before that I never met before. So you scored a first, and yes, on that basis, I will do this show. Thank you very much for the wonderful opportunity. so then we did the show, and I was terrified. Yeah, I was terrified, thinking that people would throw rotten cabbages at us, saying, "No, we want Queen. You're not Queen. You're people. You're students our age. How can you pretend to be Queen?" There was a massive, tsunami of love from the audience for what we were doing, and I discovered I I was terrified beforehand, in conniptions backstage, but absolutely loved being on stage and doing the songs, and that became sort of like a bit of an instant hit for me that needed to be replicated. So and then it suddenly became this tribute thing where you're a tribute band, as they began to be called immediately, and we were head of the tribute scene without thinking that, okay, right, this is obviously a big thing that's going to take off and last for decades. We just thought, oh, okay, we're on some kind of student zeitgeist. Let's do this. This will be fun. We'll do this a few times, and then we'll probably stop, and it will last a summer or two. Probably just a summer. This thing can't last, but it'd be great fun. Let's enjoy it. And what a wonderful thing. I'm so glad we did that one show. And then it just kept on getting bigger and bigger. Then got in touch with us and said, which is like Broadway, we want you to be the first ever tribute band to be on the West End stage and have a residency. And then because of that, the BBC, and all the cameras, and because of that, we started winning awards. And because of that, we started getting off with the same arenas that Queen were playing, with all the big, huge lights and production. So it was just like, I put that, it's like whispering a little secret into a tree root or something. And then the whole tree suddenly goes into blossom. And then apples start falling on your head, and you start going, "Oh, that's happened." And you
manifested that success.
Well, kind of. The band existed in my head, and I didn't even. But this one happened to sneak out. This one of the ideas that actually snuck out and then actually happened. So. No, and it's been extraordinary, and we've done like bizarre things and had scrapes and japes, and it's been fun, and we've made a lot of people very happy, it seems, with our shows, and we try and look like Queen, we try and sound like Queen. We put on the biggest light show we can for each venue, and it's a great night out. That's what we do the world over, So and that's what we'll be doing in St. Louis.
Yes. Now, back at that very first show, did you ever, in your wildest dreams, imagine that you would still be touring the world decades later, 3 decades later?
No, I mean, I thought, to me, that sounded insane. That would be, in fact, if but there was a part of me that knew if I did this, it might become something that you'd have, you'd have to give your whole time to. So part of me, when it took off quite so quickly and all those apples were falling on my head, I thought, oh, well, what's going on here? I'm not sure I want to be under this tree. This was supposed to be, because it was so esoteric and it was just in my head, and suddenly it was real, and that suddenly meant that all the other things I wanted to do, because there was a million things I wanted to do. I wanted to write books and plays and comedy and I sort of did an act. I wanted to act as well. So there's a whole load of things. And I thought, well, can you do all of these things if you're doing this? Does one thing stop you doing the other things? So I ended up sort of struggling with a little bit and thinking, oh, should I be doing this? And then I realized, I do. I enjoy doing this. I love doing this, and audiences love seeing it. So I will do it. But no, I never thought it would last this long. I kept on. I'd say we started off thinking it would last a summer, and then I'd say, well, it might last a year. And then I'd say it might last another year. And then after a while, after it lasted a few years, I'd say, well, it might give it another 5 years. I think it will probably be
too funny.
And I've been saying that. I've been saying that now for 33 years. Give it another 5 years. I think that will probably be enough. We'll probably have to stop doing it then. But that hasn't been the case so far. So we just keep doing. Audiences feedback from the audiences saying that they feel like they've seen a Queen concert, and it was really exciting.
Absolutely, that's something I wanted to touch on.
And they brought their whole family. Yeah. That's for me. We've won awards, and we've had we've got good copy from the press who've said lovely things about us and stuff, which is good, and it's good for press packs and stuff. But what really affects you is people writing into you and saying good things, who've been to the show, and then tell you a little bit about their lives and where they are and what their past was like. I won't go into them because some of them are quite personal, but it's that to me is amazing. That's really knockout stuff.
Yeah, that is a beautiful thing to be able to form that kind of connection with your fans to where they feel like they can kind of lay it all out for you and say, this is what I've been through and this is how you inspire me with your craft. Like, I love that so much for you. And that really tells a
Yeah, it's
lot
amazing.
about your character that audiences can connect with you in that way.
I guess so. I think it really speaks about their connection and their love for Queen. I
And the
think
music, absolutely.
and the music. I think we're just a vessel for that. So we're sort of like prompting that because I think the music you fall in love with in your youth stays with you, and I'm Exhibit A when it comes to that. As proof of that. So. Yeah, I think really it's. I mean, it's great that they're able to identify with our act so much that they feel able to say that to me. Yeah, I like that. But I think really it's. I think music unlocks a lot in you and it releases a lot, and particularly if you see it in a live environment, surrounded by people, it accesses a lot of emotion very, very quickly. It's like it's intravenous almost. The effect it has on you. So it's. And I think there's just a lot of power in music, and Queen's music is very, very, very powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, with Freddie, he had such a unique balance of power, precision, and playfulness. What is it
Yeah,
like for you? What's the hardest aspect of him for you to capture on stage?
I think to me he is a whole host of all those things that you said, and it's like a shifting sort of prism of sort of like kaleidoscope of light in terms of trying to capture it. It's almost uncapturable, that what he had. Because there's so many different elements to it, and also his style changed over the years. His showmanship developed into this thing that became the big '80s thing. But there was always something. There was the playfulness. I think was there from the start. So for me, it's I like the. I have I've studied movement and I've studied acting and but for me it's just the word that you came up with was that I always sort of use as my touchstone is his playfulness, because he and I think you achieve all those other things through playfulness. If you walk on stage saying I'm going to be powerful and I'm going to dominate you and I'm going to do this and you do, some people get away with it, by being like that. I think Freddie gets away with it because he achieved power through his charisma and his, and he had genuine power. But underlying that was a sense of playfulness that made the audience know that there was a to and fro, that undercut what could be perceived as ego. So it became. I think his sense of humour was crucial, so that he could pull these amazing poses and look great, and you totally wanted him to be and accepted him as. But he wasn't a rock god that was above you or even though he possibly was, he was still relatable, is what I'm trying to say, because there was humour. Not that he was doing things ironically or this, that, and the other. It wasn't that. It wasn't irony, or this, that, and the other. There was just a humanity and humour that was behind all of that. And it's funny, these things work in opposites. He could have all that power, but he could be very gentle and tender on stage too. So you can always point to the power, you can point to the fist in the air, but he'd always counterbalance it with jokes with the audience and things that let the audience in. That only increased his power. It didn't. It never undermined it. But I think you could see there was much more of a rounded element to his performances than is commonly kind of referred to. Everyone just sort of thinks of the iconic poses and thinks, oh, you just have to walk on stage and do an iconic pose. No.
I mean, he could if he wanted, but he gave us more.
No, he did. He gave us all of those iconic poses,
Yeah.
and you completely bought it. This is a rock god in front of me. I mean, you just do. I mean, he is. I mean, it's not like he's like one. He is the epitome.
Absolutely.
But because there was so much more to his performances than just those poses, I think that's one of his secrets. I think he had. I think there was plenty of elements to Freddie that you could talk about for hours about what makes Freddie Mercury tick.
Oh, yes.
Just from a fan point of view, I never met him, but yeah, I think playfulness is one of the magic ingredients, at least.
I think for me growing up, I connected with Freddie so hard because he was so willing to just be unapologetically himself at all times. And that came through in his music, and it came through in his style and fashion icon. My gosh, like he was my fashion icon. What is it about Freddie that kind of really drew you into him?
I find him very lovable.
Yeah.
I didn't like all of his fashion choices. So he had the tight spandex was never a hit with me, which he wore in sort of the Hammer the Fall videos and stuff. I always thought, even as a child, I thought, I don't like that. But
are you rocking those on stage?
I don't wear tight spandex. No, I have done in my past. I think there's a time in life where spandex it's the spandex that tells you to leave it in the drawer. That's enough. No, but I love the waistcoat he wore in the Breakthrough video. I adore the waistcoat. It was a present he got given for Days of Our Lives video. I'm a big fan of waistcoats. I love a lot of what he did. I think the stylings and the shooting script and the sort of whole visual sort of aesthetic he created for the I'm Going Slightly Mad video was just so me. It was so that Victoriana and that sort of Alice in Wonderland thing, and all of that was so completely where I was coming from as a kid in that time, and so that was he just chimed with me so much. It's hard to sort of explain. Not that everything did, but so much did, But I didn't mind even when it didn't work for me. And I thought, no, what are you doing? That was so rare. But occasionally it wouldn't work for me. I'd still go, but what are you going to do next?
Yeah,
so there was. It was like I was like a moth to the flame. I was just going, oh, this is fantastic. But it just chimed with me. I just sort of thought I'd always approve of so much of what he did, and just think, yes, you've done it again. So it felt like, it felt great. I don't know how to describe what I felt, but it was just there was a real resonance there.
You felt the magic. I think is probably the best way to.
I did. Yeah, but there was so much fun, and you could see how they play with the audience's impressions of themselves.
Yeah.
And you could see that with the way they costumed in Going Slightly Mad video. It's one of my favorite videos of theirs. And also the sense of playfulness that everyone thinks it was Freddie's idea to dress up in drag for I Want to Break Free, and I think it was actually Roger or Roger's girlfriend's idea at the time, but they all leapt at it, and it was just great. And that's another one of my favorite videos because you could just, it's just so fun. I think the sense of fun in their videos is in a lot of their videos. Well, my favorite videos anyway, is just very evident, and also they could, there was this sort of prevailing myth that Queen were never cool. They never were the band that was at the top of that tree. They were just being Queen, so they never got associated with glam. They never got associated with new wave. They never got associated with that because they were just being Queen through all that time. But yeah. I disagree with that. I thought their Radio Gaga video looked brilliantly cool. And I thought their Crazy Little Thing Called Love video was fantastically cool. I thought they just looked brilliant, and it was just so clever, and they just so chimed with things. And I thought their Want to Break Free video was amazingly cool. So I as a child, again, I didn't like every video equally, but the ones that really resonated with me, I just thought were super cool. And they've really stood the test of time, whereas, some videos look a bit cheesy and rubbish these days from other artists. You can watch I could watch that all day long. Roger's disconcerting sort of like wink at the camera when he's dressed as a school kid, and then Brian looking all grumpy. No, Brian looking sort of like I don't know what he's looking like, very sort of like a careworn mum, and then the grumpy gran that's John Deacon, and Freddie being the extraordinary housewife with the moustache. I think it's fabulous. So yeah, I think my petition would be that Queen were actually quietly quite cool all along.
Yeah, I would say they were pretty dang cool, if you ask me.
Yeah, yeah.
Now,
Well, they had this reputation, the press, of not being. And I
yes,
used to think, well, the press are just stupid, and time will tell, and time has
right?
told.
Time has told so much.
Oh,
Now,
yeah,
vocally, Freddie had an extraordinary range, a three
he
and a half
did.
octave tenor. How do you train to meet that demand night after night?
You train all the time. I do little quiet vocal exercises. You sort of like, you've got to sing loud and big, well, sort of, you've got to give the impression of singing loud, and that sort of thing. So you just train your voice. I've got a sort of high baritone voice. That's my natural range, but it stretches into a tenor. So it means I can sing top C's every night and all that sort of stuff, and top B's. But I've also got quite a lot of low end. So that gives a lot. That helps you have a variety of tones to offer an audience. So, I just do a lot of vocal exercises. I've had different vocal coaches over the years that have all been very useful, and there's always something different about a vocal coach. They've always got some new kind of thing to offer you. And I've been very piecemeal. I've just picked up, stuff. I'm mostly sort of self-taught, but I've picked up stuff through the years from various vocal coaches in between touring, but I'm usually just on the road all the time. So, it's kind of piecemeal, but, that's what I do. It's also basic things, when I'm touring, I don't, I do enjoy a glass of something tasty when I'm off the road. But I don't drink at all when I'm on the road. And I've got a very careful diet when I'm on the road, and I drink a lot of water. So these are all very, very, very tedious answers, but that's what you have to do when you're singing,
Hey, that's the real stuff, Some people
That's
think
just what you have to do. And you have to
you can
keep, you
just
have to keep
sing
yourself.
and you sing forever, but that's
Some
not
people,
the case. You got to put
some
work
people
into it.
can, very few people can. Most people have to sort of work at it. So that's what I do. Yeah.
Love that. Now, before you go on stage, do you have any kind of pre-show ritual that kind of gets you into that Freddie Mercury character?
What I tend to do is I've got an hour's. I do, as I said, vocal warm up. So I'll do 20 minutes in the day, and then about midday, and then about halfway through the afternoon before sound check, I'll do another 40 minutes or half an hour, and then before the actual show, I'll do a full hour's worth of vocal warm ups. It takes me up to about 10 minutes before the show. And during that time, I fuss around the dressing room and get, and put my costume on and get ready and apply makeup and all that sort of stuff. And, I can be feeling, oh God, like the weight of the world is on your shoulders before that hour starts, when you're feeling tired, you've been on the road and you're jet lagged or whatever. But by the end of that hour, I'm completely ready to bounce on stage. And for me, Freddie was all about being in the moment. It's all about, reacting, like a lightning rod to things, or being a lightning rod with things, and it's all about that. So, I get myself primed and I'm ready, and I know my voice is doing what it should be doing and all that sort of stuff. And it's in the right place. But it's for me, it's the music, when I hear the opening intro bars of the stuff that's about to lead the band on stage. That's it. And when I'm on stage, that's how I react, and that's how I do my version of Freddie, for the audience. It's being in the moment, and that's the thing, and that's where I get my energy from. I get my energy from the music and the audience. And even if the audience, are initially quiet because they haven't seen us before and they're not sure how they're supposed to be as an audience, getting them into the right place is like warming your voice up. You can warm the audience up, and then suddenly within a few bars, you've got them all with their hands in the air, and then shouting stuff, because the music is that powerful. But also you're reacting to music in that way, and you're letting them know that it's okay to sort of like, it's okay to have, follow those, those musical impulses. That you can now physicalize them. You can now put your hand in the air. You can shout. You can get up and dance. You can do, or do whatever you want to do to enjoy the evening. To let them know that that's okay from the word go. So that's what I do. And that's how it works for me, at least.
Now, you have done some absolutely incredible things with Killer Queen throughout your career and over the years. One of them I would love to talk a little bit about is you did a collaboration with Fatboy Slim on The Real Life. How did
I never
that
met.
come about?
Well, what happened was there was a band. They were called Raven Maze, and they got a remix done by Fatboy Slim. I just got a call from an agent who said, "Pat, you can do a good Freddie Mercury," and I went, "Oh, thank you very much." But he was my agent, so I was wondering why he was calling. I was going, "Well, there's this studio guys. They want you to come in and do the first 2 bars of Bohemian Rhapsody." And I went, okay, what for? And they said, well, it's going to be some remix and Fatboy Slim's going to be involved and it's all going to be, And I went, oh, okay. And I had all the sort of like stuff charted out for, how those harmonies stacked up. And I could sort of hear how they were stacked up just anyway. So I went in and undid it. And I'd not really been in a studio like that before with such a fast pace of working because they were working really fast. So it took me a while to sort of get into it. Took me, the first praise was a bit, they were looking at each other going, oh, I'm not sure about this guy. And I went, hang on, let me just do this again. I need to sort of like get used to the studio a little more because I hadn't really been in a studio before. So I adjusted the earphones and then just said, let's just try this one more time. And we tried it again and it all clicked in perfectly and it sounded like the Queen harmony. And they all started smiling and high-fiving each other and getting all excited and going, yay, we don't have to pay Queen the rights. Hooray, we've got this guy called Patrick. That's what they were happy about. They weren't happy that I was recreating Queen and I was going, yeah, Better in my cap. They were going, yay, we've got out of a legal situation.
You saved us money.
Hooray, And I was thinking, oh, and that hadn't crossed my mind until I was in the studio. I was thinking, oh, that's why I'm here. Right. Okay. By which point there's nothing I could do about it really. I just thought, well, okay, all right. I didn't really want to do that again now. Having done it once, I thought, oh look, I don't want to, piss off Queen, and I don't want to. So I didn't do it again. But I was glad I did that one, and it was okay. And it was a #1 dance hit. And I'm sure it didn't do Queen any harm at all. And it was me sounding like Freddie Mercury on a record that got to #1. So it's quite cool. But it was one of those weird things. It was all over in about sort of 2 hours. And after they'd finished, I said, look, do you mind if I just sit in the corner and watch you produce and how you do everything? And they said, no, as long as you're quiet. And I said, yeah, I'll be quiet, don't worry. And it was just such an education watching them move around. They were using Logic and various different things. And it was quite, because I was, thinking of recording a couple of things myself at the time. And it was so wonderful. It was such an education just to be in the studio with them for those few hours. I thought, oh, wow, I learned so much. And so that was great. And it was good fun. It was weird seeing, I wasn't listed or credited on the record because they wanted people to think it was Queen. But so I had sort of I was totally anonymous and at #1 at the same time.
That's crazy.
Which is sort of how I like it anyway. So that was all right. Yeah.
Now let's separate Patrick from Freddie for just a moment.
Okay.
He obviously was this massive character, huge personality.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Oh my God, I don't know how to answer that one.
It's a big question, I know.
Yeah, who am I? I'm just I really don't know how to answer that. I'm not, even though I when I'm doing interviews, I'll try and look and not try and pretend to be Freddie, but I'll be Freddie-ish in certain ways for interviews. If you met me off stage and we were just having a chat, I probably wouldn't be unless I got enthusiastic about something and then my arms would start flying around. And there are certain crossover points between me and Freddie, a little bit here and there. But I'm what am I? I'm a little bit. I quite like being private, which I don't. I'm not really. I'm supposed to do lots of, like Facebook videos and reels for Instagram and all that sort of stuff, showing me cooking an egg or something, just to keep engagement going. But that's not me at all. I'm not against it, but it's just not me.
Yeah.
I don't really want to do any of that sort of stuff. So the only, I think I might, if that becomes an overwhelming thing that you just have to do to sell shows, that would be the reason I stop.
Would you say you're more of an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm not an introvert. I'm a little bit of both, I think a lot of performers are, I can be extroverted on stage, but I'm a little bit introverted, in as much as I just really like, what I like about this is that I can step through, I'm dodging your question here, but what I like about this is I can step through the looking glass and have this fun and have the fun of the fair, and then step back through it. And then nobody, most people where I live don't even know what I do, don't even ask what I do for a living. Some of my friends, most of my friends know because, we're friends. But, I like total anonymity.
I think you've answered the question perfectly. I think
Yeah.
that
So, I
really
mean,
gave
that's
me
what I
a lot of
like.
insight to who Patrick is.
Yeah. I haven't told you
Perfect
much
answer.
about me, but I just like being anonymous, like Marley and
I think I
Dietrich.
got a lot from that.
I want to be alone.
I love that. Well, I have appreciated our time so much today. I don't want to keep you for too long, so we're going to wrap it up here. But it has been an absolute joy talking to you. We are so stoked for this Monday, October 13th at the Sovereign in St. Louis. Before we go, could you do me a big favor and
Mm.
give an upcoming artist who may be interested in getting into the world of tribute bands a piece of advice that might help them along their journey?
Do what you love doing, you know. Don't think, I want to do a tribute band. Which one shall I do? Just do what you love, you know, and do what you enjoy. And I think that will come across. I'd also say, make sure you keep doing your own stuff too, and because you've got, albeit it's lovely doing people and celebrating someone else's legacy, you've also got a voice of your own, and use your time, divide your time between the two. It's like looking up to two different gardens, but they both fertilize each other. The one will help the other one, but that's what I'd say. I haven't got anything else to say. Get a good publicist.
Great advice. Well, Patrick, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. This has been Tippy with the Tippy Jo Show under the Barn Network, and we've had a great time with you.
Hey, it's been fun.
Thank you.